Detillier, he's a college and pro football analyst, WWL, AM and FM, the imagery draft report that we've got right here in our hand, SaintsReport.com. Mike Detillier, welcome into the game. I hope all is well, my friend.
Thanks so much, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Mike, I'm kind of excited to get to Nashville, Tennessee. I've never covered the NFL draft, and I'm kind of excited to see. I've never been to New York or Chicago. No, it's first time. This is it. I've been in radio 19 years, and this is my first.
Yeah, well, for me, it's difficult just because having to do it here in New Orleans for WWL,
sure,
radio and television, and I do the draft coverage for the Titans, so you'll hear me. But I hate to break the secret, but we've already pre-taped a lot of that. So it's great for Nashville. I'd love to see it here in New Orleans. It won't happen because it's same weekend as Jazz Festival.
Oh, gotcha. I got you.
And so, man, they got enough time putting people here for Jazz Fest. Man, to have that sort of onslaught like they do for the draft would we'd have to extend the borders a little bit. But it's a great thing to cover, and the fact they have it on the road, I like that. It brings the excitement to it, and it's a long drawn out process. Not like growing up for me. The draft used to be in late January, early February. Now they seemingly extended out, and that's just the NFL. Man, listen, they hit the high points. Tomorrow night they'll have the schedule. That'll be a big thing to announce the official days that the games will be played and everything between teams, and then the following week is the draft. So it's the lifeblood of every NFL team. There's no question about it. Still is, despite free agency. Draft's a big part of you winning. You win in those days.
Well, Mike, I think the college side of things, and it's so much different now when you talk about the demand for college football. I mean, we live in Tuscaloosa. We do 4 hours a day, and we have a 12-hour lineup. Then a lot of our time is spent to football. But the NFL, I think, does a good job of keeping it a year-round conversation. College football's got a small gap, but I think that college football could learn a little bit and maybe give a little bit more access to open up some of the conversation to maybe get you through this, 137 days until we tee it up and the toe meets the leather there in late August.
Yeah, there's a bit of a break there. Normally you get, recruiting come into play in May and somewhat into June. But, there's a little bit of a gap there. But that's why, something I know we talked about in the last couple of weeks, that's why I think spring football is still very viable professionally, because it does fill in that gap. And listen, the way things going, happens here, not only in Alabama, but in Louisiana, sports-wise, you got a lot to fill in. But, man, once it gets past, like, May 10th, May 15th, man, you can hear the squealing of the brakes in the background.
Mike, I certainly want to talk a little NFL draft with you, but I'm curious, did you have a chance to watch any of the spring game? Because they're cloning the Tagovailoas here in Tuscaloosa. It's like right-handed version of a Tagovailoa, and then you got left-handed version in Tua. His younger brother looks almost as dynamic as he does. It was the accuracy. It was the tight windows that he was throwing in. And you kind of get excited that the SEC may not only have to deal with Tua, they may have Talia coming up as well.
Yeah, Talia's an interesting player. Seeing both of them in high school, I thought Tua was a more accurate passer. I thought Talia, it was a little bit more of an east-west guy and more of a runner, a better runner than Tua. I didn't see all of it, and I hope to watch some of it later tonight. But I was impressed. Tight window throw. And, he's physically going to get stronger. That's the thing with, most quarterbacks. They haven't spent a lot of time in the weight room, but they will. They will real quickly. And so it helps in their strength development. And also, too, Peyton Manning told me this about, learning how to throw a football. He said, there's no reteaching you. When you get into your teens, you pretty much, you're throwing motion and how it goes, that's set. But he said the big difference is using your lower body, the lower body power and the lower body balance. And he went through a long deal with me. I just asked him one question, but, man, listen, I got about an hour answer about how that's the big difference, jumping from high school to college and learning that more balanced power as a passer. And I see that with Tallulah. That's something he's going to get better at. The same thing with Tua, that he's gotten better at, in that ability to use his lower body, where you generate that power. People talk about arm strength and everything else, and some guys got it, some guys don't. All I know is throughout the years, that's something that as you get older as a player, I think there's a risk in wanting to get skinnier and thinner. You say, well, I'm going to move around a little bit better. And that does help, but I do think keeping your weight also is something involved with that. Keeping that weight up, because you think just getting skinnier helps you elude people, but it also takes away some muscle mass that you need, that you built up as a teenager and in your 20s. And I think that's important. But Peyton's the one who first brought it out to me, that he felt that was really important in the development of a quarterback. And we've seen it in Tua. And listen, little brother, he got some wheels. There's no question about it. But I was impressed with a couple of throws he made in a very tight window. It was good catches, but it was put in a spot where either it was going to be an incomplete pass or it was going to be a catch. He didn't put it up for grabs. He put it in that tight window, and I like that. And again, you can see he's a quick pickup guy to understand what to do with the football. And I know even talking to Coach O about him when they were trying to recruit him at LSU. And, we were just kind of batting it around a little bit. And he told me, he said, one of the things he knows where to go with the football in certain down and distance situations. And he said, listen, you can't teach a guy to do that. Either he knows it or he doesn't. And makes him a pretty doggone good prospect. And listen, even Mac, I was impressed with some of the throws he made.
So was I.
Last spring, too. I thought he threw the football really well. The big difference with him this year from a year ago, on balance. He's not up on his tippy toes. He throws the ball flat-footed and on balance, and it's improved his accuracy skills. You can tell.
Mike, when you look at watching, and their dad is their quarterback coach, and I wonder when you think about, because they've got a chance. I mean, obviously Tua has a chance if he continues at the pace that he'll be a first-round draft pick, and it looks like arm talent is there for Detillier. I'm not sure exactly where, we'll watch his career begin to develop here in Tuscaloosa with a lot more talent than he had there at Thompson. But when you look at these two, it probably won't take long for people to come and go, hey, what are you doing down there? How exactly are you developing this? Because I think a lot of people want to know how he's taken these two kids and made them, superstars. We talk about arm talent. It's kind of fun to kind of analyze exactly what he's doing different to get these guys where they're at now.
Ryan, it's something one day I'll probably do. I've been approached by a couple publishing houses to do. It's about genetics. You know what? As we get older, you can't beat your genetics. There's a certain genetic code. It makes us more at risk for some diseases or illnesses our moms and dads had. And also, too, it gives us that genetic code. You see families that, it's, the uncle, the cousins, the grandfather. I mean, all of them have played some sports. And you see that kind of connect the dots with it all. And yet there are always exceptions to the rule where you'll find a young man that none of his family members ever played sports or were good at it, and he's a superstar. So I do think your genetic code is there, and you know, with Tongue of a Little Family, you can see they've got it. But I think it's the quick decision-making process that is the biggest obstacle for any quarterback at any level, the ability to know what to do with the football on most plays. Now, you think you would do it on every play, but and that would be great, but having that right sense of reading, recognizing a coverage, reading your receiver's routes, making a catchable pass, you've got that trait or you don't. It's not something you can teach. It's something that you either have or you don't. It's like, you know, you go on to school and you've been a consistent C student. A really good teacher can get you to that B. You're not going to get them to that A. I mean, that jump is just difficult. And it's the same thing in coaching when you look at a talented athlete and you can get him a little bit better and put him in a spot and have him run plays that more puts the spotlight on what he does best, but you're never going to get him to the A talent. It is what it is, and no matter how you cut it. And to have both of them there, and I love competition, right? I think at any level, you love to compete. And if you've got someone, just look at, you know, having the Fowler in Tua's footsteps. That's some big moccasins. A lot of brothers would not want to do that. I want to carve my niche somewhere else. I want to go somewhere else and play. But I think he did see, here I get a chance to play for the greatest head coach in college football history on a program that's going to put me at an elite level, and I know I'm going to have a really good supporting cast. And, you know, he's a little bit different player than Tua, and there are going to be some goods and some negatives about it, but they have some similar talents. And so if I'm Alabama, I really don't have to change my offense much, don't I? I can somewhat run the same sort of system, the same plays, you know, just with different guys from the same family. So, listen, it's a blessing when you have that type of situation go on. But a lot of young men, and I've talked to a lot of recruits, and maybe they had a big brother that went somewhere. They don't want to follow in his footsteps if they're playing the same position. I'd rather go somewhere else. And yet, that wasn't the case.
Well, I thought it was kind of fun. We were, you know, not given an opportunity, and Nick Saban blocks his true freshman for the first year of talking to the media.
They do that here, too.
Okay, yeah, it's kind of like which is good. I mean, I think it's smart. I mean, even though I'd love to have access, but we were asking Tua to analyze Talia. Boy, he was hard on him, too. He was like, well, he could have thrown the ball a little bit higher to make the wide receiver, you know, a little bit easier to catch. And it's kind of like that microscope. You get to understand maybe what their father's been able to do. It's the attention to detail. It's the little things. And he said, yeah, he could have put that ball a little bit elevated, just a little bit more to make that wide receiver a little bit easier catch and not having to make such a great catch. It's kind of funny how they analyze it. And I guess that's what separates the good from the great.
No, you know what it is, Ryan?
What is it?
We say we're never going to talk like our moms and dads.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
You know, but yeah, we do.
Sure we do, yeah.
You know, and as we get older, a lot of things, I'll never say that. I'll never say that to my kids. I'll never say this. And you know what? You end up doing it. You end up being it. And so you might want to say it's parroting, but it is true. And I'm sure, too, heard it from his dad. You know, exactly what he's saying about his brother, he's heard it, too. And so I don't know if you want to call it tough love, but it's, I think, looking at it in a different perspective in that, okay, I heard it, and I know you can do better with it, and I'm going to tell you. I think the worst thing today, and listen, we in that profession, that everybody tells you, you know, youngers that work with you, I want to hear the good and bad in what I do. And when you tell them something they can do better, man, some of them pitch a fit. Well, you're being negative on me. Well, wait a minute. Didn't you just ask me to critique something for you? But if I tell you, you know, 20 good things and one bad thing, the only thing you remember is the bad thing. You know, so I think that's the part that you always wonder about somebody, how they take it, how they take criticism. Now, one thing Toulouse kind of have to, man, he does have a head coach that'll let you know real quickly when you do something wrong. And so, you know, Big Brother telling you that, you know, you take it better. You know, I would take it better from my brother, who's 5 years older than me, to explain me something sports-wise than I would from a coach. And I think sometimes coaches sort of speak through different people to get their point across. They use other people to get their point across to you.
Mike, what's happening behind the scenes in the NFL and all these teams, this cat and mouse game? Because I kind of think it's kind of fun to watch these teams and, you know, the little leaks out and information and, hey, we're going to draft this guy. I mean, does anybody really know other than the teams? And it's kind of like false information that gets out and kind of it moves the shuffleboard a little bit, but it's kind of fun to see all the cat and mouse games being played by the top teams there in the NFL.
The biggest misconception is that everybody knows what their own team is doing, and that's totally wrong. I've had scouts and coaches on teams tell me, you know what, I wasn't exactly sure what we were doing. Now, they might tell you there were certain people they liked, but, you know, it comes down to the general manager and the head coach having the final, you know, say. And they got the chalk in their hands at the end. They're the ones making that call. It's sort of a put on that we all in agreement. That's a bunch of BS. They ain't none of that all in agreement. There's only how many people have sat on a committee, and if you sat on a 10 or a 12 person committee and see about how much you and your input was done, you might have a bit and a piece. But you don't have the full say. And that's the way it is if you're a scout or if you're an assistant coach, and for some people, even the head coach. So there's a lot of misinformation that gets given out, and purposely to throw you off the track a little bit. As it gets closer, I think you get a little bit better information, because now it's sort of confined about what you're going to do and what you're looking for, and the cat, you know, gets out of the bag. But this time of the year, I don't believe any of them. None of them would they tell me. And I have good friends of mine that are in the scouting business, that are head coaches, director of player personnel people, and I don't listen to one of them because they lie to you. I hate to break it, but, you know, coaches and front office people, sometimes they don't tell you the truth. And sometimes they're telling you something that's accurate for them at that moment. But 3 days later, it's not the same. So there's a lot of misinformation that gets put out there about certain people. And I think it's almost like if you go to the racetrack and you look at the track form, if there's a certain GM who does things a certain way, a certain head coach that does things a certain way, they follow that pretty closely. But what they tell you and what they try to kind of give to you to spread a lot of times is totally off base. The one thing I do know, if you ask them about something and they're real quick with a player, normally that tells you they like him. They just don't want to tell you. And, you know, you ask them about a player and they're real short with you and they try to throw you off. That's normally the case, that they really like them and just don't want to say anything.
Mike Detillier, connect with him, college and pro football analyst, WWL, AM and FM, the M&D Draft Report, which you can get right now, saintsreport.com, as we cover the NFL Draft. Mike Detillier, always very thankful that you can make us a part of your day. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation here in Tuscaloosa.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. Listen, the one thing I'll say about that spring game for Alabama, man, the way their linebackers flowed to the running backs, Nick Saban had to be happy about that.
Yeah, and that was a big question going into the spring camp.
It was, but after watching what I saw, and I didn't see all of it, that jumped out at me defensively of how quick, and I'm talking about quick flow to the ball carrier, read, react, get to the guy. That's something I'm sure Nick probably didn't beat his chest about, but I think he's real happy about.
Mike, as always, thank you so much. Thank you for being a part of the show.
Thank you, Ryan.